Well, welcome back to TuckerAllen Live right here on Facebook. I'm Scott Trout, and I'm your moderator on Fridays typically, and also in our virtual town halls. And I'm joined by TuckerAllen attorney, Jim Gau. Welcome, Jim.
Thanks, Scott, for having me.
So check us out at TuckerAllen.com. Continue to follow us here on social media. Plenty of information and resources for you. And Fridays are no different. We want to just bring you a topic that's very quick, rapid, and just high level for you. And today is no different. Jim, I know we were just talking off camera. Maybe, as you suggest, maybe a different, unusual topic, but is what do you do? And what are the steps to take when a loved one passes away? And I had mentioned it is common, I think, you're overwhelmed. Obviously, if they're close to you, you're in the moment. What do I do? And that's maybe a great place to start because a lot of times they're asking a funeral director or a funeral home, what do I do? And that's always obviously place number one. But there are all kinds of different steps from an estate planning perspective. But I mean, start at the top. You plan the funeral, right?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, step number one is plan the funeral and get all the family visitation and stuff like that. You know, I have clients sometimes come in and it's a day or two after their loved one passed away, and I kind of tell them, this can wait.
Yeah.
Get your family visitation and the funeral planned and everything like that, and the funeral home does stuff like gets the death certificates and contacts Social Security a lot of the time. So they'll actually do some of the steps for clients just by doing something as routine as not really routine, but planning the funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously that's going to be first step.
And then there's always the questions, there's stuff, there's things, whatever it is. I've over the last year, friends and family, gone through this. And the first step is, hey, is there a will? If so, locate it, right? Get a copy and figure out what to do.
Yeah. And so, if when we draft the documents, an estate plan for a client, we tell them, give your loved ones an idea of where you're keeping your documents, whether that's a safe deposit box or a gun safe in the house or a fireproof bag. Give your loved ones an idea of where your estate planning documents can be found in the event of whether it's an emergency during life or, the event of a death. So yeah, the first thing is to look for that estate planning binder, those estate planning documents, to figure out whether who's going to be in charge and whether or not you're going to have to start contacting companies a lot more for beneficiary designations, or whether or not you've got to file the will with the court, because in Missouri you've got to file the will within a year of death or it becomes void. So
We've talked about it. I think the word that one of the attorneys have used is a go box, or the words a go box, and putting everything there, the important documents, and mark it as such and put a thumb drive of all the documents. And I know particularly I have family members who've given me their go box, or it's a folder and it's got everything important, passwords, for everything from social media to credit cards, and a thumb drive of the important estate documents and the POAs. So if something were to happen, keys to and combinations, that's really the step is, if you go, I mean, you certainly can't tell anybody where it is when you're gone. So make it, as accessible, or give someone a copy and how to do it, right?
right. And so that's why when you complete your estate plan with TuckerAllen, we do put everything on a TuckerAllen branded USB drive. So it's very easy to find. And then at the end of your estate planning binder, we have a packet that you can fill out, having usernames and passwords, account numbers, locations, contact information for financial advisors. After the funeral or after you find out a loved one's died, go over to their house, make sure the house is secured, because unfortunately people watch obituaries and they know the funeral is scheduled at this time. Nobody's going to be at the house. So just make sure the house is secured, and then forward the mail to someone that's responsible for looking after it, because it's not just finding, having bank statements, dividend statements, quarterly reports, like you said, but it's also potentially creditors. So there's bills coming. You've got to cancel electric and Netflix and the cable and stuff like that. So it really is. Yeah. Watching the mail is one of the easiest ways. I have clients all the time ask me, how's my family going to find out all my, find all my assets? And watching the mail is really one of the best ways to do that.
I mean, we've made things so easy with technology, monthly subscriptions that go through Apple Pay or your apps, and it's crazy what may need to be done. And I think as I'm thinking through it, and as you were talking, how crazy it can be, you have to be really uber organized and maybe not take it all in at once, and start beginning the cancellation process and keeping track of assets and keeping good notes. I imagine that's important as well as to kind of what you're doing and to ensure that if there's any questions, you kind of, this is exactly what I did.
Yeah, and so when you're doing, whether it's a trust administration or you're named as the executor in someone's estate, it's important that you kind of keep track of your costs and your travel and things like that, because at the end of the day, you're entitled to be reimbursed most of the time for those, and even trustees are entitled to compensation sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah, just keep track of everything that you're doing, and like you said, be organized. Excel is the friend of a trust administration, a trustee, or
No, totally.
a public personal representative. So yeah,
Yeah.
keeping track of all your expenses and things you've done already is important.
I had a friend ask, he had a relative pass away and he was getting a copy of the death certificate. And I said, hey, go get a dozen certified copies. You'll need those to do things, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you've been watching the mail, you've got the house secured, you found the trust, you know what all you're supposed to do. And now the real work begins. And so you've got to, get a stack of death certificates, start contacting companies. And normally what happens is you call them, they say, send me a death certificate. And what they do in return is they'll send a packet, a beneficiary claim packet, out to whoever's named on the policy, the account, whatever it may be. And so, yeah, the real work begins as far as reaching out to all these companies, getting the paperwork, and starting to actually put pen to paper.
And I think backing up a bit, because as I'm thinking through this and getting to the last point being, first thing is maybe have a consultation with an attorney like you to say, okay, let me just go through the steps and making sure, one, I'm doing everything correctly. Two, what should I not be doing? And three, as we get to it, obviously, and that is, do I need an estate opened? Is it a small estate? What legally am I required to do? In terms of heirs and distribution of the assets. But I mean, there's so much, it's easy for us in this conversation for people to be taking notes and think, okay, I'm going to get on it. I'm going to do this. But conversation with someone like you is worth its weight in gold, isn't it?
You're completely right. And so the first thing, meeting with an estate planning attorney, figuring out simple things as far as, do we need to open a full probate estate? Are we simply just submitting the will? Or like you said, what is the total value of the assets, whether or not we can do a small estate, and that varies from state to state as far as the value. So in Illinois, it's less than $100,000. In Missouri, it's less than 50,000. And different filing requirements based on the counties or the states. So yeah, absolutely. Meeting with an estate planning attorney is the first, one of the first steps after the funeral and stuff like that, obviously.
Yeah, and it depends on things are titled, whether it's POD or TOD, and all these things, and that I think matter significantly, and whether or not you hopefully don't need to incur the expenses of an attorney and have to pay those statutory fees that come with opening an estate. But I think it's worth an hour of time to make sure that that heirs in the future don't complain that you did something incorrectly, and you don't want to have that. And it's just more pressure, and I think that's what's important. So as you kind of think through that, obviously, is secure everything, right? You want to, if you get the will, you get these things, put them somewhere safe that you can talk to the attorney with.
Yeah, so the original will especially is important to keep safe, because we need to submit that original ink on paper document to the court, or the court assumes, if we can't find it, that it was destroyed and revoked. So the original will is very, very important to keep safe. Copies of everything else is going to be effective. But yeah, that original will especially is necessary once somebody passes away.
Well, thanks, Jim, for giving that. It's a stressful time, and it's the last thing people want to think about is the steps I need to do, and it becomes overwhelming, especially if they're very, very close to them. And so I appreciate the input today.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, continue to tune in every Friday, 1 o'clock Central Time, right here on Facebook, and bring it to you, TuckerAllen Live. Just bring you a little bit of information to hopefully provide some assistance and help. If you have more questions, you certainly can reach out at TuckerAllen.com. You can have a consultation via phone or video just like this with one of the attorneys at TuckerAllen in the St. Louis area, including Kansas City area. as well. You can schedule a consultation right there on the website at TuckerAllen.com, and it's also full of resources and other videos and podcasts just like this. It'll get you the information that you're looking for. Don't forget to follow us on social media right here on Facebook. So until next Friday, have a great weekend.